So when I'm teaching stopping distances, I teach thinking distances and braking distances. And I like using driving simulators for the braking distance, because you can drive vehicles on different types of road and you can measure how long it takes for them to stop and all this sort of thing. The problem was the thinking distance, or just the reaction time. Some reaction timers I found, the students were only concentrating on one thing, so they had naturally very low reaction times, unrealistically for in a situation where you're driving. So I did find a pretty good reaction timer on the Scania truck simulator, but that requires decent enough hardware to run. And at school, I can't run that sort of thing. So running on my Chromebook here, I've got Windows 3.1. I thought, let's write my own game. So 2 hours later, I'd written my own little driving simulator. Oops. Little driving simulator. I'll show you it first, and then I'll talk through how it all works. So we're straight in. Now you can see those green lines. Those green lines indicate the extent of the road, and you press the left arrow to move towards the left-hand side of a lane, and you press the right arrow to move towards the right-hand side of the lane. And you have to constantly adjust it. It's like balancing a ruler on its tip. It's designed to be unstable, designed to be difficult to keep it in the middle. At the bottom, you'll see there's a bar with a yellow line. Let's make it a red line bouncing up and down. You can change the color. I made it so you could change the color from red to yellow because my projector in my classroom, the red doesn't show up very well. But at the moment, let's keep it as a red line. The red line, you want to keep it as close to the middle as you can. But again, it's unstable. So right now, actually, that's settled pretty well in the middle. But it is going to change slowly, but it is. You can see it's changing, and it's changing more and more quickly. At least it should be. Using random numbers, so sometimes you get lucky, and it kind of seems to hover around the same speed. You want to keep that red line right in the middle, and I've just nudged it there so it goes down, and I've nudged it again so it goes up. Now, if you keep the red line close enough to the middle, and you keep your position close enough to being in between the green lines, then one of two messages will randomly appear. Either the word safe, which you ignore, or the word stop. And when you see stop, you hit the space bar. And the idea is that you are going to ignore the word safe, but of course it's the same length as the word stop, and it ends in an exclamation mark and starts with an S. So at a glance, you might not spot it. So you've got to keep an eye on where you're positioned within the green lines, where your speedo is, and whether there's that hazard up in front. So left and right arrow keys to control your position in between the green lines. Up and down arrow keys to control your speed, and then a space bar for the emergency stop. On the top right, you can see it tells us the reaction time, and that is the time between the stop appearing and us hitting the space bar. Well, it's not wonderfully accurate because the code is also running, so the timing might be slightly off, but it gives us an indication. On the right-hand side, you can see the last 5 that we've got. The last 5 scores, they're in seconds, and also the offences, and then we've got the sum of all the offences and the mean reaction time. Ooh, that was quite a long one. Mean reaction time there. So what are the offences then? Well, let's say I'm not being very careful and I veer too far to the left. Bang, I hit the edge of the road, I've crashed, it comes up and adds 1 to our offences. Or if I hit the right-hand side, bang, okay. I mean, that's added it a few times because I haven't added proper debouncing to this yet, which I'll need to, it says stop there. I will need to add that. Alternatively, you could be speeding, that adds an offence, or you could be going too slow, that adds an offence, or you could just hit the brake too early. If I hit the brake, it says brake press too soon, brake press too soon, it adds 1 to the offences. So that's it. Now, there are different difficulty levels. So I'm currently running it on difficulty level 4. Difficulty level 1, you can see that it's really easy to keep it in the middle. Very little adjustment needed. You just tap the keyboard. Everything happens much more slowly, so you've got time to react. That's the lowest difficulty level. Going up to 4, which is where we were playing it before. If we put it on difficulty level 9, forget about it. It's so difficult to keep it balanced in the middle. As you can see, this is difficulty level 9. It's really hard to keep it in the middle. And the graphics are glitching a little bit because of a bug where when it changes the speed, I haven't overwritten that in black, so I need to fix that. Anyway, it's a work in let's put it back to there. It's definitely a work in progress. Let's pause it for a second. It's definitely a work in progress. Now, when I press R to reset it, all the scores go back to 9999 or 9.999. All the offences go back to 0. Ignore the offences on the left. I need to fix that as well. And then it's ready to press P to start the game again. That's the idea of it. So let's just clear off that bit of red at the top and the bottom, which I didn't want. It's a silly little game, really. It's nothing major. It's a silly little game that's just designed so that the students are distracted. And what we could do is we could test different things. So we could have it so the students are texting on their phone whilst trying to play this game. You could have it so the students are distracted by people in the back seat of the car whilst trying to play this game. You can get them to spin around on the spot loads to get them very dizzy, to simulate drunkenness. And you can see if that affects the time. And we've done all those things in the classroom just today, and it worked really well. They definitely had an effect on the reaction time. The distraction was the worst. We also put someone else's glasses on one of them so they could not see very well for simulating poor visibility. Wanted to see what the effect of that would be, but there we go. So you want to look at the code. It's very badly written because I often joke that my first language isn't English. My first language is, exit. My first language is BASIC. I make no apologies for that. So here is 𝗟𝗶, Quick Basic, which is really, I started learning on Basic A properly. Well, started learning on the Basic on the ZX Spectrum properly. But anyway, I really got into coding on Basic, on 𝗟𝗶. So let's just go find where it is. There it is. So here it is. This is the code. It took me 2 hours, maybe a little over 2 hours to write. I haven't got a single subroutine. Everything is in the main body. So there's a lot of repetition around here for the different case. This is, what's the key press? If you press 5, you change the difficulty level. A lot of this code is repeated, so I could have put that into a subroutine or even a function so that it would have taken up far less space. But it doesn't really matter. I know what's going on. It's very readable. If I press C, it changes this color of the red text to be yellow. It just cycles between them just because of my dodgy projector. R reset, there it is. In terms of the graphics, it's just a simple line command, and it overwrites the previous position of the line in black so that it disappears. So there we go. My daughter was at soft play, and I decided to write a silly little game to do what I wanted. And this does what I wanted. I mean, I can add joystick controls into this, but I'm not sure how well the crostini fakey version of Linux that's on Chrome OS handles joysticks. But I've got a steering wheel, and if I can get that to send signals through to 𝗟𝗶 as well, which is easy enough to use the joystick, there's no big issue with that. If I just go into index, oops, didn't mean to do that. If I go into index and go down here for just J for joystick, J isn't working. Let's just go down here to joystick or joy or something. Where's J in the alphabet? I, J, K. It should be in there somewhere. Oh, it's not there. Well, there is a way of getting information from joysticks, but I can't remember how. Stick function. Do you reckon it's that? 4 possible joystick coordinates. X, Y coordinates of two joysticks. Okay, so there's ways of using joysticks on this. So I could build that in with a steering wheel, as long as there's a driver that understands the steering wheel in Linux, then no problem. But there we go, stop, boom, boom, boom. If you want a tool and it doesn't exist, make a tool. That's what you do. And if your primary coding language is an obsolete coding language from the 1980s, well, embrace it. Just use the obsolete coding language from the 1980s. Doesn't matter, does it? I thought you might like to see it.